Welcome to the Quit Vaping podcast, the podcast designed to make you a non-listener. In this show, I'm not going to scare you away from a life of vaping. What I am going to do is show you just how good your life can be without it. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome back to the Quit Vaping podcast. As always, I'm your host and life coach, Andrew Cipriano, and I'm here today to give you episode 20, which is going to be fantastic. It'll be quick. It'll be awesome. It's going to be right to the point as normal, and y'all are going to love it. So as of right this very second, I'm opening up my quitting vaping app because I want to update you guys. So as of today, it's been 1 year, 218 days, 14 hours, 12 minutes, and 39 seconds since I had put out my last vape. That is $5,050.21 I've saved. And the reason why I quit, this was over a year ago, obviously almost 2 years ago, is I've said sore, tight lungs, disempowered lifestyle. Ooh. So today's episode, I wanted to lead in with that little intro. If you guys want, it's literally called the Quit Vaping app. You can just get any one of them and they'll tell you. And it's been really nice for me to have that. It's been just a really good mental benchmark of the progress I've made. So I'd recommend that if you're quitting vaping, just to check out that as an idea. There's free apps. There literally is no downside to getting one. So I'd recommend it. All right. Today we're talking about what you're gaining. I think so often in life, and this isn't just with vaping, it's with so many things, that we look at what we're giving up. And yes, everything in life has consequences and benefits and trade-offs. So yeah, you're giving some stuff up when you quit vaping, right? You're giving up just being able to numb out your emotion and feel a quick dopamine hit. But I really want you to just make the switch. And you don't have to do this forever, but just humor me for a couple minutes today that you might actually be gaining way more than you're giving up if you quit vaping. And I'm going to tell you about all my personal gains I've had in life because I quit vaping, and we're just going to go over those. And I want you just to kind of sit in that and think about your life without vaping at the end of the episode and all the things that you're going to gain from quitting. So the first thing I want to say, and this is the most important, and again, I've talked about this in other episodes, but it's confidence. Now that I know that I can go into any situation and not hit a vape, my confidence has gone really, really high up. Well, I should say self-confidence too. There's two different kinds of confidence in the coaching world. There's confidence that comes from doing things in the past and knowing that you can do them because you have experience. So for example, I can walk. I know that I can walk across my room. I've done it a million times. I'm very confident I can get up, go get a glass of water, come sit back down without falling, most likely. That's confidence. And then there's self-confidence. And I would say that actually my self-confidence is the one that's improved drastically since I quit vaping. Now, self-confidence in the coaching world is pretty much that you can put yourself in any situation and know that you're going to be able to manage your emotions and act in a way that you want, that serves you. That's self-confidence. And I will say that my self-confidence has skyrocketed since I've quit vaping. And I'm a life coach and I own a business, and my life is just on an upward trajectory in so many different ways. And quitting vaping truly was the first milestone that I completed in order to start me on the self-confidence journey. And the reason that it's gone up is because when you're vaping, there's a couple things going on. For one, you're often lying to yourself because you're saying you're going to quit. You know that it's not good for you. You have this cognitive dissonance where your actions don't agree with your belief system. So you know that it's bad. You don't want to do it anymore, but you just can't seem to get rid of it. So that's a huge thing on your self-confidence. People might not see it that way, but it is enormous. So that's why I think a really good place to start getting your life together is by quitting the things that you're addicted to that are not serving you. Again, that's why I'm a life coach at House of Vaping, because I'm not anti-nicotine, but I'm pro the best version of yourself. So my confidence has gone up so well. And I just want to offer it. I was with my friends last night. We went out, fun time. Everyone's still vaping. It's actually funny because since I quit, more people have jumped on the vaping wagon, and we're almost in our 30s now. So you would think that people would if you're going to start vaping, you'd probably do it when you're 16, 18, whatever the age is. And then by 30, you'd start to fall off. But I actually see it's the opposite's true. And I have a friend group of about 20 people, and an alarming amount of them are vaping, which is shocking to me. And I don't push my philosophy on them, right? It's not my place to judge or say what's right or wrong for their life. So if they come to me and they want help, I'll help them. But, I just observe kind of neutrally in the group. And it's interesting to me to see that as they get older, it's actually more of a problem because you would think it'd be the other way around. Because people see, historically people have seen cigarettes and nicotine as something that young people do. But I think with the accessibility and potency of the vapes now, I actually think we're going to see an opposite trend coming. And also because they've been told, I think the biggest reason why people quit vaping and smoking cigarettes, I should say, not vaping, is because as you smoke cigarettes and you get older, you see the effects pretty drastically. But I think that it's more subtle with vaping. It's kind of a more subtle evil. So I don't think that the health scares that comes with approaching the age of 30 is the same with vapes and cigarettes. So I think that we are going to see a trend where you see a very high number of vapors in their 30s and 40s and probably up to their 50s until they really start seeing health effects. But this podcast is not about health effects. So I'm not trying to scare you with things like that. I really am just trying to show you that without nicotine in your life's going to be much better. So that's one thing, is my self-confidence has skyrocketed. I can put myself in a situation where I'm surrounded by people vaping and I have genuinely no desire to vape. remember, because I've changed my belief systems and managed my emotions. So that's one. And that's like a huge one. I can't stress that enough, you guys. Like, if you are not where you want to be in life, or you have confidence issues and you're addicted to things, I don't think you understand. A lot of people wouldn't understand, unless you have a psych background and a coaching background, the effect that that has on your overall life and your mental health. So just be mindful of that. If your life isn't how you want it to be, I would say the easiest place to start to improve it is to eliminate the things you know that you're doing that are hurting you. So that's one, self-confidence. All right, so the next one on here I'm just going to throw on casually is money. So as you guys have seen, I've saved like over $5,000 in the almost 2 years of not vaping. I was a pretty heavy user, quote unquote heavy. Like, I would buy a vape every 2 or 3 days, like one of the $20 to $25 ones. So yeah, I'd go through about $50 of vaping a week. So that's a lot of money. Just want to offer that's a lot of money. That's a car payment. That is actually more than my car payment was monthly. So, but most people don't really care about the money. Like, we can justify it and we kind of just spend money. So that's not a huge reason for me. But I will say the $5,000 that I've saved vaping, I'm going to Europe in 3 weeks. I'm going at the end of May. And I am spending about $4,500 on the entire week. That's with airfare, with hotel, with everything I'm going to do is about $4,500. So in a year and a half, a little bit less than 2 years, I'm able to go to Europe because I quit vaping, which is the money I would have spent. So again, I'm not huge on, and I'm really not that influenced by money. So it's not a huge reason for me, but that's a lot of money. Like, $5,000 is a lot of money. So keep that in mind. All right. The next thing I want to say on here is one of the benefits for my life from no longer vaping is the amount of energy I have. And I'm not just talking about like physical energy. I'm talking about mental energy, but both. So as a life coach, I dig mental energy more than physical energy because I think that mental energy creates physical energy. So like, what I mean by that is I'm not at a war with myself all the time. So like, yes, my self-confidence is great because I can trust myself now, but I'm also not wasting any energy thinking about nicotine, when I'm going to get my next hit, freaking out about when I can hit it, not being able to take breaks at work was a problem. It used to be a big problem for me. I think that there's probably like anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 thoughts a day that revolved around my vape back in the day. And there was so much of it that was unconscious and so much of it that was very conscious, where I was just constantly at a war with myself, telling myself I was going to quit, doing the whole guilt and the shame and all the emotional energy that went with vaping. It was huge. And it's funny because so many people, their excuse for wanting to keep vaping is that it helps you with your negative emotions. And if you understand addiction, if you actually understand the psychology of addiction, you will know with certainty that that is completely the opposite from the truth. Addiction does not help you with any emotion. What addiction does is covers up some mildly uncomfortable emotions you're trying to avoid. And then what ends up happening when you try to avoid negative emotions is you create so much more of them in your life. Because when you try to avoid negative emotions in your life without feeling them, you end up doing things like vaping, over drinking, overeating. And then what happens is you end up guilting yourself, shaming yourself, beating yourself up, having low self-confidence, and all the negative emotion that comes from trying to avoid negative emotion in our lives actually is so much bigger than just feeling the emotion without addiction. So one of the biggest things that's come from my life, it's like I have so much time and energy now freed up that it's shocking. I don't even think about vaping for probably 2 weeks now, or like whenever I'm around my friends and I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, that still exists. But I used to constantly, like my whole work day, you guys, my entire work day revolved at the psych hospital when I was working there, revolved around when I was going to hit my vape, trying to find a way to sneak away to hit my vape. Like, I cannot tell you how much energy, probably 50% of the time that I was working, my mind was focused on my addiction. And now that it's gone, it's like, I can't believe how much time and energy I was actually using on that addiction. So your energy is going to go so much up, and you're going to have so much more desire, by the way, to go after the things you want. Excuse me. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'm not even going to erase that burp, so you're getting it. But you're going to have so much more desire, because if you guys understand how your desire works, it's like, think of your desire as having a tank. So you have like a desire tank, right? So let's say you have 100 units of desire. And when you are using anything a lot that releases dopamine, like vaping, overeating like unhealthy foods, any kind of like alcohol, if you like watch porn a lot, there's so much of your desire that's going to go towards wanting those things. Now, when you remove those things from your life, not only are you going to get so much of your desire units back to spend on other things, but you're also the things that you want that aren't artificially concentrated, like nicotine, which is totally not concentrated like it is in vapes naturally, you're going to get all that desire back. So what happens is when you take vaping out of your life, the things that you want that are actually exciting for your life, like big goals, going and starting a business, asking out a guy or a girl, getting a raise at work, like anything that is actually going to be good for your long-term well-being becomes way more interesting. Because if you understand how nicotine works, it's very highly concentrated in vapes and cigarettes, so that you get a really, really disproportionately large dopamine response or happiness chemical release when you use a vape. So when you're constantly using a nicotine, your brain's like, ooh, I want that. It's very, very important. And the things that are actually good for you, like exercise, getting proper sleep, going on like lovely dates, working and creating something that's important to you at work, those don't seem as important. And then what happens when people are using nicotine or alcohol or these things all the time is they think, their brain starts to think that these artificially concentrated substances are much more important than things that are actually good for their overall well-being. So that's a huge cost to vaping that people have no idea is going on. It's like, oh no, I vape because I want to help my stress. It's like, no, you don't understand. When you vape, it actually reduces your desire for things that are going to be good for you. It's not about you trying to cover up your stress, which, by the way, doesn't work with nicotine, because if you understand how emotions work, when you cover them up with nicotine, you're not actually processing the emotion. You're just numbing over it to be dealt with later, and that does compound. Like, you are creating emotional debt that will have to be dealt with at some point, and that's why people who have addictions typically become more and more and more addicted, because as they learn to get away from their emotions, in order to maintain, they have to keep getting more and more addicted to avoid their emotions. Like, everything about addiction is just a downward spiral. And I want to offer, it's interesting, addictions are positive feedback loops. So that means the more that you use, the more that you have to use to maintain the level of addiction you are at and the level of effect that it has on your body. So this is called a positive feedback loop. If you imagine, have you ever put a speaker right next to the microphone and then it like echoes, and then as it echoes out of the speaker, the microphone picks it up and then it echoes louder and louder and louder until you literally, it's screeching? That's exactly what addiction's all about. So when you are using nicotine, it's actually creating a positive feedback loop so that you can't just maintain the level you're at. In order to numb your emotions, you have to always numb more and more. Numbing always leads to more numbing. So that's why people say, there's such things as gateway drugs and all that. It's like all addiction's an emotional problem. The reason why people get more addicted to things and heavier things is because the same substance that once covered up their emotions is not strong enough to keep covering up your emotions. So it's just like you're feeding a bottomless pit of addiction that's never going to end. It's only going to get worse. And I think that that's really important to understand, because people think, especially people who are vaping, they think, well, it'll just be easy to quit one day. I'll just make the decision, it'll be easier. It's never going to be easier. So that is a thought error. That is a thinking fallacy. It's a logic error that will never serve you. So I just want you to know it's going to be harder and harder as you get more and more addicted. As your beliefs solidify in your head about nicotine serving you and they get stronger, it'll be harder and harder to quit. I found out my dad, I guess if you guys have been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll know that my dad had to quit smoking cigarettes to get surgery, and now he's smoking again. And the reason he's smoking again is because he has not changed his beliefs about nicotine. And my dad, for like 2 weeks, was telling everyone around him, hey, my son Andrew helped me quit vaping or quit cigarettes. And I'm like, you know what, Dad, don't tell people that, because I didn't help you quit cigarettes. And the way that you quit isn't right. It's going to be meaning that you're always feeling deprived. And I don't want you to tell people that I helped you quit cigarettes, because it makes me look bad. And now he's back to smoking again. So it's like, thank goodness I said that, because you don't have to quit using willpower. And when you do, you're hard-headed and you don't understand how to quit properly, which I teach you. Listen to episode 2. You're always going to go back to nicotine. And you've never fully quit. I have a belief that my dad never quit smoking. Even though he wasn't physically or chemically addicted for about a month, his mind was still attached to nicotine. That is the problem. It's not the chemical addiction that gets people hooked. It's the mental addiction. It means that you have beliefs in your head that somewhere in your life it's serving you. That's why it's so important to, instead of seeing what you're giving up, you start to see what you're gaining. I have self-confidence now. I have money. I have a business. I have health. I can go on a run and not literally wheeze. I no longer have a sharp pain in my throat. I can go into a party and actually respect myself without any shame or guilt that I'm addicted to something and try to hide it, which my friends do. Like, you can tell that they're guilty when they're hitting their vape. They openly express that to me, which it's the funniest thing, because I'm not judging them. Like, it really is okay. I'm not judging them who vapes. That's not my messaging at all. But they're judging themselves. And because they're in the presence of someone who no longer vapes, they're using their own belief systems to hurt themselves, which, again, not a good thing, not a good look, never going to serve you. So stop thinking about what you're giving up when it comes to quitting vaping, because you're not giving up anything. Vaping isn't even enjoyable. If you actually sit down, I want you guys to do this. If you're not sure if you want to quit or not, that's okay. It's whatever. It's your choice. But if you actually sit down next time, like, put your vape in front of you, set a timer for 5 minutes, and I want you to just watch yourself for that whole 5 minutes. And then I want you to hit the vape at the end. And I want you to be able to analyze that entire process with awareness. Because once you build awareness into the process of how you're using nicotine and how you're vaping, you're going to see in your life that you actually don't like it. There's nothing about it that's enjoyable. Sitting down, having to set a timer and not being able to manage yourself and having all this anxiety and all this addiction feelings come up while you're also beating yourself up, shaming yourself, and then using a substance that's making you sick, there's nothing actually enjoyable about that. You're not gaining anything from your addiction. It's only ever taking things away. The reason you think you're gaining is because you've been believing thoughts that other people have told you to believe about nicotine so that they can sell you things that hurt you in order to make money. You get to decide what you believe about nicotine, and I recommend that you do that consciously, because so many of us don't. And when you learn this skill for vaping, you can carry this skill in other areas of your life, and that is why I coach on vaping, because this is the gateway to mental health. And it's so funny because people call vaping and everything like a gateway drug. Well, no, it's the opposite. It's the gateway that's going to teach you how to process your emotions so that you can watch your brain think and then create the life that you want. The only thing that you're giving up when you quit vaping is all the belief systems that are hurting you. You're giving up the part of you that you no longer want to be. So thank you for listening. This was a good one. I will talk to you guys next week. Have a fantastic day. And yeah, do that. I forgot. Please do that exercise. If you actually want to quit and you want to build awareness, 5 minutes, set a timer, put your vape right in front of you, sit there, do nothing but sit with you and your vape, and at the very end of it, hit it. And I want you to build awareness of that entire process. Do you actually enjoy that 5 minutes without your vape? Once you hit your vape, is that actual enjoyment or is it relief? Because you'll see that if you actually build awareness around your addiction, that you're not actually getting enjoyment out of it, you're getting relief. And I promise you that relief is not enjoyment. Do not make the mistake of thinking those are the same things. Enjoyment for me is rollerblading. It's hanging out with my friends. It's like cooking a healthy meal. I love doing stuff like that. I like thrifting. I'll go thrift shopping. All of that is really fun. I genuinely enjoy it. It's a lightness in my chest. Now, relief is not a lightness. Relief is like there's a tightness in my chest, and now there's a lightness because of that. That is not the same as enjoyment, which is only ever light. So as we keep doing this podcast, I really do hope this is the last episode you've had to listen to. If not, that's okay. No shame in this game. We're just here to build awareness, spread some love, and show you that you can become the person you want to become on the other side of addiction. Have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys later. What's up, guys? I hope you're enjoying the show and that each episode is bringing you one step closer to becoming a non-listener. If you'd like to take all this information to the next level and finally quit vaping for good, you can check out the course link in my bio. Have a great day. See you next week.